Allora, buonasera a tutti.
So, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here this afternoon on this roundtable on religious affairs and peaceful coexistence, which situates itself at the very heart of our roundtable. This is quite a relevant roundtable because around this table we have the political responsible people who are responsible for religious affairs. So they are the real protagonists of interfaith dialogues, and they are actor in under two different dimensions, because not only they take part in dialogue, in interfaith dialogue, but they also promote interfaith dialogue. So this basically places our attention on what will be said, and what will be said will underlines how religious and civil dimensions meet and can cooperate to shape a world where peace, listening, understanding, freedom, justice become shared value. From this perspective, the protagonist will be presented individually, induced individually, and the Minister of Interior, Mrs. Lamorgese, who is also responsible for religious affairs, will draw conclusions. So, being a Minister of Interior, she deals with interior affairs, which involve also local community affairs. And so the minister not only is able to be present on the territory through prefecture, but is also able to establish a dialogue with the local communities. So without dwelling upon any longer, I give the floor to Zuoan Wang, Director of the Chinese State Administration for Religious Affairs.
尊敬的帕伊诺先生，尊敬的拉莫尔杰塞先生，尊敬的史蒂利亚尼德先生，各位嘉宾、各位朋友，大家下午好。感谢论坛组委会邀请我参加20国集团信仰节论坛，并允许我以视频的方式发言。在此，以中国国家宗教事务局和我个人的名义，对此次论坛的举办表示衷心祝贺，对参加论坛的同仁致以诚挚问候。
Honorable Mr. Alessandro Pajno, Honorable Luciana Lamorgese, and Honorable Cristiano Stielonites, dear guests, dear friends, good afternoon. I'd like to thank the organizing committee for inviting me to join the G20 Interfaith Forum and allowing me to address the audience through video. On behalf of the National Religious Affairs Administration and myself, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to the forum and warm greetings to all the fellow participants.
本次20国集团信仰节论坛的主题是治愈时刻。人类在同疾病和各种灾难的斗争中，宗教发挥着不同程度的影响。治愈新冠肺炎疫情造成的创伤，需要包括各个宗教在内的人类社会共同努力。历史和现实告诉我们，宗教之间的和谐相处有助于人类社会一致应对重大挑战。因此，从宗教事务与和平共处的角度审视治愈时刻是一个值得探讨的话题。
The theme for G20 Interfaith Forum 2021 is Time to Heal. In humanity's fight against diseases and various disasters, religions have had a varying degree of impact. To heal the wounds brought by COVID-19 requires the joint efforts of mankind, including those from various religions. History and realities have already taught us how harmonious coexistence among religions help the human society to respond to major challenges in solidarity. It is therefore a particularly worthwhile endeavor to explore the theme of this event, Time to Heal, from the perspective of religious affairs and peaceful coexistence.
各位嘉宾、各位朋友，本人供职的中国国家宗教事务局一项非常重要的职责，就是促进各宗教之间的和睦相处，共同维护国家统一、民族团结、社会和谐。中国历来是一个有多种宗教的国家，历史上佛教、伊斯兰教、天主教、基督教先后传入中国，同道教等本土宗教在交流碰撞中逐步学会和平共处，共融于中华文化，扎根于中华大地，形成了多元通和、和合共生的局面。中国历史上很少发生宗教迫害和宗教冲突，为我们今天处理宗教多元性问题提供了有益的历史境界。
One of the key responsibilities of the National Religious Affairs Administration of PRC, where I serve as a director, is to promote harmonious coexistence among religions, with our concerted efforts to maintain national unity, solidarity, and social harmony. China has always been a country of multiple religions. Throughout its history, Buddhism, Islam, Catholicism, and Christianity have been introduced to China and gradually learned to peacefully coexist with Taoism and other local religions through exchanges and coalitions as they converge and blend with Chinese culture and take root in Chinese context. It has thus generated pluralism and harmonious coexistence. Religious persecution or conflicts seldom occur in Chinese history, which provides a useful historic reference for us in dealing with religious pluralism today.
在当代中国，宗教和谐局面得到很好的传承，并不断注入时代内涵。中国共产党和中国政府致力于构建阶级健康的宗教关系，正确处理执政党和政府与宗教、社会与宗教、国内不同宗教、本国宗教与外国宗教、信教公民与不信教公民等诸方面的关系，促进宗教关系和谐。经过持续不懈的努力，我国宗教呈现出彼此尊重、和睦相处、凝聚共识、协调行动的新境界。
In China today, religious harmony has been well inherited with continuous enrichment of contemporary connotations. The Communist Party of China and the Chinese government are committed to building active and healthy religious relations with proper handling of the relations between the governing party, the government, and the religious groups, between society and religion, between different religions within the country, religions of China, and of foreign countries, and between religious believers and non-believers in order to promote harmonious religious relations. Through continuous and unremitting efforts, religions in China have emerged with a new realm of mutual respect, harmonious coexistence, convergence of consensus, and coordinated actions.
我们的做法和体会是：一是尊重宗教信仰自由。中国宪法规定，公民有宗教信仰自由。中国的宗教信仰自由政策是平衡而广泛的，有信仰宗教的自由，有信仰这种宗教和那种宗教的自由，也有不信仰宗教的自由。不能因为信仰宗教、信仰不同宗教或者不信仰宗教而产生权利和义务不一致的现象，也不能出现各种歧视行为。宗教信仰自由政策的贯彻实施，为实现宗教关系和谐提供了宪法法律保障。
Our approach and reflections are as follows. Respect for freedom of religious beliefs. The Constitution of China provides that citizens have freedom of religious belief. China's policy on freedom of religious belief is balanced and extensive. People have the freedom to believe in or not believe in any religion, to believe in one religion in preference to another. There shall be no inconsistency in rights and obligations because of one's religious belief or belief in different religions or lack of belief thereof, nor should there be any discriminatory acts. Application and implementation of the policy on freedom of religious belief provides constitutional and legal guarantee for harmonious religious relations.
二是坚持宗教平等原则，不管是外来宗教还是本土宗教，不管宗教的规模和影响大小，中国政府都一视同仁，平等对待，在法律上享有同等地位。实行政教分离，国家不得运用行政力量利用或发展某种宗教，不得运用行政力量限制或取缔某种宗教。任何宗教不得享有超越其他宗教的特殊地位。坚持宗教平等原则，为实现宗教关系和谐提供了政策制度保障。
Secondly, adherence to the principle of religious equality. For all religions alike, regardless of their foreign or local origins, their sizes, their extent of influences, they are treated equally by the Chinese government and enjoy the same legal status. As a country that keeps its religions and government separated, the state shall not use its administrative power to utilize or develop any religion, nor can it use its administrative power to restrict or ban any religion. No religion may enjoy any special status over other religions. Adherence to the principle of religious equality provides policy and institutional assurance for harmonious religious relations.
三是倡导宗教和谐理念。中国政府支持各宗教，弘扬和平主张，阐释中道思想，践行包容理念，加强相互交流、相互学习、相互借鉴，防止相互隔膜、相互排斥、相互取代，在多样中求统一，在差异中求包容，在交流中求共识。鼓励各宗教彼此尊重、和睦相处，为各宗教开展对话交流搭建平台，建立机制，创造条件，营造同生共存、和睦相处的良好氛围。倡导宗教和谐理念，为实现宗教关系和谐创造了良好舆论社会环境。
Thirdly, advocating the philosophy of religious harmony. The Chinese government supports all religions in promoting their proposition of peace, expounding the idea of middle path, practicing inclusiveness and tolerance with more mutual exchanges and mutual learning to prevent divisions, exclusions, or substitution over each other. It is about seeking commonality in diversity, finding tolerance in disparities, and building consensus through exchanges. All religions are encouraged to respect each other and coexist in harmony. We build platforms, mechanisms, and conditions for dialogue and exchanges among religions so as to create a good atmosphere for coexistence in harmony. Advocating religious harmony serves to create a good environment of public opinion for harmonious religious relations.
四是夯实共同政治基础，实现中华民族伟大复兴的中国梦，符合全国人民的根本利益，也是社会各方面的共同愿景。我国各宗教深刻认识到，只有在中国共产党领导下，走与社会主义社会相适应的正确道路，同全国各族人民一道，共同为实现国家富强、民族振兴、人民幸福奋斗，才能真正体现宗教的社会价值，在中国这块土地上得以健康传承，争取光明前景。共同的目标愿景为实现宗教关系和谐奠定了重要思想政治基础。
To consolidate the common political foundation, realizing the Chinese dream of the great rejuvenation of the country is not only in the fundamental interest of the people, but also the common vision of all sectors of society. China's religions have a deep understanding that only under the leadership of the Communist Party of China, taking the correct path, suited to the socialist society, working together with the people of all ethnic groups to achieve national prosperity, national rejuvenation, and the people's happiness, can we truly reflect the social value of religion, inherit it healthily, and strive for a bright future on this land of China. The common goal and the vision has laid an important ideological and political foundation for realizing the harmony of religious relations.
各位嘉宾、各位朋友，人类文明史是一部同疾病和灾难斗争的历史。疾病和灾难过去有，现在有，将来还会有。关键是人类社会要在同灾难斗争中增进团结合作，不断提升应对能力。在中国，自新冠肺炎疫情发生以来，我们见证了政府的努力、医务人员的付出、科学工作者的探索、普通民众的坚守。我们也见证了宗教界在抗击疫情中表现出来的大爱精神和社会关怀。
Dear guests, dear friends, the history of human civilization is a history of fighting against diseases and disasters. There are diseases and disasters in the past, now, and in the future. The key is that the human society should enhance unity and cooperation in the fight against diseases and constantly improve its response in China. Since COVID-19, we witnessed the efforts of the government, the efforts of medical staff, the exploration of scientific works, and the persistence of ordinary people. We have also witnessed the spirit of love and social concern shown by the religious community in fighting against the epidemic.
同舟共济，守望相助，是中华民族的文化基因，也是中国各个宗教的优良传统。疫情发生后，宗教界积极响应政府号召，迅速采取行动支持抗疫。由各宗教联合成立的全国性宗教团体联席会议，第一时间向广大信教者发出了两暂停一延迟的倡议，也就是暂停开放宗教活动场所，暂停一切集体宗教活动，宗教院校延期开学。全力避免因集体宗教活动引发聚集性感染，为全国的抗疫斗争做出了积极贡献。
Helping each other in the same boat is the cultural gene of the Chinese nation and the fine tradition of all Chinese religions. After the outbreak of COVID, the religious community actively responds to the government's call and took prompt actions to support the fight against the epidemic. The National Joint Conference of Religious Groups, jointly established by various religions, issued the initiative of 2 suspension and 1 delay, which means suspension of the opening of religious venues, suspension of all collective religious activities, and delay of the opening of religious colleges and universities to the majority of believers at the first time. Spread no efforts to avoid collective infection caused by the collective religious activities, and made positive contributions to the national anti-epidemic struggle.
各宗教对宗教教义做出有针对性的阐释，要求宗教界人士和信教群众遵守政府的防疫规定，尊重科学，做好个人防护，自觉投身到抗疫工作中去。各宗教还通过各种途径采购医疗物资送到抗疫一线，向中国红十字会等慈善机构捐款支持抗疫。他们还克服自身困难，向一些国家和地区赠送抗疫物资，体现了山川异域、日月同风的境界。中国宗教界在抗疫斗争中展现出来的讲大局、讲法治、讲科学、讲爱心的精神面貌，得到了政府和社会各界的广泛好评。中国抗击疫情能够取得令人注目的成效，是包括宗教界在内的社会各方面团结一心、共同在意的结果。
All religions made specific interpretations of religious doctrines, requiring people in religious circles and religious believers to abide by the government's epidemic prevention regulations, respect science, do a good job in personal protection, and consciously participate in the epidemic prevention work. All religions also purchase medical materials, through various channels and send them to the front line of the anti-epidemic efforts and donate money to charities such as the Red Cross Society of China to support the work. They also overcome their own difficulties and presented anti-epidemic materials to some other countries, reflecting the realm of mountains and rivers in different regimes, but sun and the moon in the same wind. The spirit of stressing the overall situation, the rule of law, science, and love shown by the Chinese religious community in the fight against the COVID has been widely praised by the government and all sectors of the society. China's remarkable achievements in combating epidemic are the result of the unity of all sectors of society, including religious circles and the common fight against epidemic.
病毒不分国家、种族、信仰和宗教，是人类的共同敌人。只有各国秉持生命至上理念，高举团结合作的旗帜，才能再而胜之。当前新冠肺炎疫情尚未得到有效遏制，恢复正常生产生活仍然面临严峻挑战。战胜疫情不仅需要清除新冠病毒，还需要克服团结抗疫中的各种干扰和障碍。世界上各宗教应当联合起来，反对在抗疫中存在的以邻为壑、违背科学、政治操弄、无视生命等行为，以超越国家、地区、种族、肤色、文化传统、宗教信仰、社会制度的胸怀，呼吁携起手来共同抗疫。中国宗教愿同各国宗教一道，共同努力，做出自己的贡献。
Viruses are the common enemy of mankind, regardless of country, race, belief, and religion. Only when all countries uphold the idea of life first and hold high the banner of unity and cooperation can we win this war against the COVID-19. The current outbreak of the COVID has not been effectively controlled, and it is still facing severe challenges to resume normal production and life. To overcome the epidemic, we need not only to remove COVID-19, but also to overcome all kinds of interference and obstacles in solidarity and epidemic prevention. All religions in the world should unite to oppose the practice of beggaring thy neighbor, violation of science, political manipulation, and disregard for life in the fight against COVID, so as to go beyond the mind of countries, religions, regions, races, skin color, culture, traditions, religious belief, and social system, and call for joint efforts to fight epidemic. Chinese religions are willing to work together with religions of other countries to make their own contributions.
疫情是一面镜子，抗疫斗争给我们以深刻启示。我相信，团结就是力量，坚持就是胜利，治愈时刻的曙光就在前头。各位嘉宾，各位朋友，疫情以生命作为代价告诫我们，我们生活在一个地球村，人类是命运共同体，各国休戚相关，命运与共，宗教界的和平相处是构建人类命运共同体的应有之义。
The epidemic is a mirror, and the fight against the epidemic has given us profound enlightenment. I believe that unity is strength, persistence is victory, and the dawn of the healing moment is ahead. Dear delegates and friends, the epidemic, with the cost of real lives, is reminding us that we live in a global village. Mankind is living in a shared community of destiny, and all countries share a lot. Peaceful coexistence among religions is the due meaning of building a community of shared destiny for mankind.
借此机会，我提3点建议。第一，践行宗教和谐理念。世界上各个宗教都是主张和平的，但从古至今，因宗教信仰差异引发的仇恨和冲突不断发生。没有宗教界的和平，就没有社会和谐、国家安宁和世界和平。宗教信仰十分可贵，但不能必来达至宗教之间的和平共处。政府宗教事务部门 应当把倡导宗教和谐理念作为重要的职责，提供有利于促进宗教和谐的政策法规保障，创造有利于促进宗教和谐的社会环境，激发宗教界追求宗教和谐的内生动力。
I would like to take this opportunity to make 3 suggestions. First, to practice the concept of religious harmony. All religions in the world advocate peace, but hatred and conflicts caused by differences in religion beliefs have occurred continuously since ancient times. Without interreligious peace, there will be no social harmony, national peace, and world peace. Freedom of religious beliefs is very valuable, but it cannot necessarily achieve peaceful coexistence among religions. The Religious Affairs Department of all governments should take the advocacy of religious harmony as an important responsibility, provide the policy and the legal guarantee conducive to promoting religious harmony, create a social environment conducive to promoting religious harmony, and stimulate the endogenous driving force of religious circles to pursue religious harmony.
呼吁各宗教阐释和弘扬教义思想中和平、和谐、和好等重要思想资源，摒弃唯我独尊、以我为中心的心态，正确对待其他宗教，学会与其他宗教和平共处，探索与其他宗教的合作之道。要共同反对利用宗教干涉别国内政、改造别国文化、改变别国制度。宗教不能成为实现地缘政治目标的工具。
We call upon all religions to interpret and carry forward the important, valuable resources of peace and harmony, as well as harmony in their doctrines and thoughts. Abandon the egotism and the self-centered mentality, treat other religions correctly, learn to coexist peacefully with other religions, and explore ways to cooperation with other religions. We should jointly oppose the use of religion to interfere in other countries' internal affairs, transform other countries' cultures, and change other countries' national systems. Religion cannot become a tool to achieve geopolitical goals.
第二，开展宗教之间交流互鉴，促进宗教和谐最重要的途径是推动各个宗教之间的交流对话和包容互鉴。世界上任何宗教都是在不断吸收各种文化中演化而来的，也只有在不同文明的交流交融中得到发展。各个宗教虽然信仰不同，但都包含着人类共同的伦理思想和道德准则，如和平、仁爱、正义、宽容、行善、诚信、团结、互助等等。
Secondly, to carry out inter-religious exchanges and mutual learning, the most important way to promote religious harmony is to promote exchanges, dialogue, tolerance, and mutual learning among religions. Any religion in the world has evolved from constantly absorbing various cultures and can only develop in the exchange and integration of different civilizations. Although different religions have different beliefs, they all contain the common ethical thoughts and moral norms of mankind, such as peace, benevolence, justice, tolerance, doing good, integrity, unity, and mutual assistance, and others.
这些共同伦理规范是宗教植根于社会的基础，也是宗教与宗教之间交流和合作的基础。要秉持和而不同的理念，支持各宗教之间、各国宗教之间开展对话交流，尊重差异，扩大共识，兼收并蓄，互学互鉴，实现共同进步。支持各宗教围绕维护和平、应对灾难、保护环境、消除贫困、制止战争、反对恐怖等人类共同议题上加强合作，在合作中增进理解和谅解。
These shared ethical norms are the basis for religions to find their rootings in society and the basis for interreligious exchanges and cooperation. We should uphold the idea of seeking harmony in diversity with support for dialogue and exchange among religions and between religions of different countries. We respect differences, expand consensus, and learn from each other in an embracing manner so as to achieve common progress. We support religions to strengthen cooperation on shared agenda of humanity, such as peacekeeping, disasters response, environmental protection, poverty elimination, war prevention, and counterterrorism, in an effort to facilitate understanding and reconciliation through cooperation.
第三，推动构建人类命运共同体。构建人类命运共同体是世界发展和人类未来的前进方向，已经被写入联合国文件，成为国际社会广泛共识，也是各宗教愿意为之努力的目标。要支持各宗教发挥自身优势，顺应各国人民追求发展进步的共同愿望，弘扬和平、发展、公平、正义、民主、自由的全人类共同价值，推动构建设持久和平、普遍安全、共同繁荣、开放包容、清洁美丽的世界。
Thirdly, to build a community of shared future for mankind. This is a way forward for world development. This is where the future lies for mankind. It has been incorporated into UN documents already and has become a broad consensus of the international community. It is also a goal that religions are willing to work towards. We shall support all religions to give full play to their own strengths, respond to the common aspirations of people from all countries, to pursue their development and progress, to promote common values of peace, development, fairness, justice, democracy, and freedom for the entire humanity, so that we can build an open, inclusive, clean, and beautiful world that enjoys lasting peace, universal security, and common prosperity.
各位嘉宾、各位朋友，沉舟侧畔千帆过，病树前头万木春。相信经过国际社会共同努力，一定能够早日战胜疫情，迎来真正的治愈时刻。也相信通过共同抗疫，对文化间和平、宗教间理解起到重要的推动作用。
Dear guests and dear friends, as the Chinese poem reads, past the fallen ship, 1,000 sail onward, for sick tree, 10,000 thrive by spring. We believe that through the joint efforts of the international community, we will be able to overcome the epidemic as soon as possible and usher in a true time to heal. I also believe that through the joint fight against the epidemic, we can play an important role in promoting peace among cultures, understanding between religions.
感谢论坛主办方在疫情下为不同国家与会嘉宾提供交流机会，相信大家能够从彼此聆听中受益。借此机会，我诚挚邀请各位与会代表在疫情得到控制后的适当时机来中国访问旅行，感受真实的中国。作为同行，我们还可以就双方感兴趣的话题进行深入的交流。谢谢大家，我的发言就到这儿。
I would like to thank the host of the forum for providing such an opportunity of exchanges with participants from different countries in the context of COVID-19, allowing all of us to draw inspirations from each other. I would like to take this opportunity to invite all participants to visit China at an appropriate time once the pandemic is under control, so that you will experience the real China and have in-depth exchanges as colleagues on topics of mutual interest. Thank you all.
Ringrazio il dottor Wang per questo.
Thank you, Dr. Wang, for this long and complex contribution, explaining and displaying what the Chinese state has made to foster coexistence and harmony among different religions and to ensure the principle of freedom of faith and religion, and stressing the importance of religions in fighting COVID-19. So the whole this is the result of a balance which is underpinned by the freedom of religion and their practices, and government have a role in promoting such an harmony, but which is also based on the freedom of expressions of the different communities. So thank you again to Mr. Wang, and I give the floor to Khalid bin Ali Al Khalifa, Minister of Justice, Islamic Affairs and Endowments of the Kingdom of Bahrain.
Distinguished guests, it gives me great pleasure being here in Bologna attending this forum, which is being held under the name of Time to Heal, dialogue between cultures, understanding between religions. I would like to thank the G20 Interfaith Forum and the Foundation for Religious Sciences for organizing such an event. Distinguished guests, under this session that is dedicated to the role of religious affairs and peaceful coexistence, a very important question poses itself: how to maintain the mosaic of a multicultural society. In most of our countries where different religions and cultures exist, or migrant workers or residents from different regions come in, or even fast-moving new thoughts and ideas flood in with telecommunication available in all levels. With all of this, the anticipated role of ministries of religious affairs become vital and crucial. Furthermore, the democratization process and the promotion of the rule of law entails careful crafting of the way we deal with different cultures and religions on national, regional, and international levels. The Kingdom of Bahrain is a constitutional monarchy. It is an archipelago of 33 islands in the middle of the Arabian Gulf. Historically, pearls were the major economic sector, where pearl diving and trade with the rest of the world, especially India, was the main source of income. 200 years back, a Hindu temple was established in the heart of Manama, the capital of the country. Churches, synagogues, and other worship places for different religions were established. The souk, since then until now, comprises many merchants of different origins and beliefs. And with the discovery of oil and the change in our economy, diversity got widened. Banking and telecom industries diversified more our latitude of cultures existing on the land of the kingdom. Muslims, Sunni and Shia, Christians, Jews, Baha'is, Bohris, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, and many others are living in the country and part of the fabric of the society. In an environment where the rule of law is established, there is no distinction in the rights and duties of citizens that are based on their beliefs, origins, color, and culture. Laws are for all and applies on all. However, while this is valid in civil, commercial, labor, to some extent, criminal and administrative laws, it is so important to address cultural diversity in family law, for example, and the rules of inheritance. The codification of a unified family law for both Muslim sects were introduced in 2017 and approved by the parliament. Other religions can have their religious rules applied in courts as well. And recently, mediation law on all family disputes was introduced regardless of the religion or sect of the citizen or a resident in the country. It should also be noted that the collection of money for charitable purposes, when it comes to helping the poor and needy, it was stipulated that the poor and needy is anyone on the land who is in need regardless of faith or nationality. One of the most important aspects that is related to maintaining cultural diversity and coexistence between religions was how to deal with hate speech, call for violence, or promoting sectarianism. In 2009, the Code of Conduct of Religious Sermons was issued to emphasize that religious sermons must hold and maintain respect for coexistence and tolerance. To maintain recognized human rights principles, and to maintain good interactions with other cultures. So hate speech, sectarianism, and call for violence or disrespect of the beliefs of the others are breaches. In this regard, I would like to quote from Bahrain declarations adopted in 2017, this quote, I quote, "We declare when extremist clergy preach hatred, violence, and seek to sow the seeds of discord, that they are inciting desecration of the name of God," end quote. Since 2012, a committee of specialists analyzed sermons and classified breaches into call for violence, hate speech, sectarianism, politicization of worship. And since then, a constructive dialogue between the ministry and religious preachers is on, and lots of roundtables and discussions took place. The outcome was very positive in promoting understanding and coexistence between all. It's also worth pointing out that the political parties, some of them used in their title the word Islamic. This was allowed with a declaration from the political party at its formation from the moment of inception that the word Islamic is a reflection of the general identity of the kingdom, but does not mean any sect of Islam, and does not preclude non-Muslims to participate in any level in the party, nor that gives any advantage of a Muslim over non-Muslim. A recent and still current example in COVID era was the application of health requirements on worship places and religious rituals. It entailed joint committees and consultation between the national medical team and leaders of the religious communities to apply comprehensive regulations without distinctions that also took into account different rituals that every religion or sect has. Bahrain is a hybrid multicultural society, and the main challenge to maintain this mosaic comes when there are international or regional conflicts that are based on religion, sect, or origin. It is for the benefit of all our countries, including the Kingdom of Bahrain and its people, to see peace and coexistence prevail in every place in the world. Bahrain, therefore, hosted two major events on dialogue in 2002 and 2014. The Kingdom also established in 2017 King Hamad Global Center for Peaceful Coexistence, which mainly works on the promotion of tolerance and acceptance of others. In 2017, Bahrain Declaration was issued to emphasize on religious faith and expression, freedom of choice, and religious rights and responsibilities. In Italy, Sapienza, King Hamad Chair on Dialogue and Coexistence Studies is attracting more and more students, and we hope that their graduates will be advocates for tolerance and coexistence all over the world. In this particular issue, I would like to quote from Bahrain Declaration. I quote, "Ignorance is the enemy of peace. It is therefore our duty to learn, to share, and to live together by the tenets of faith in the spirit of mutual respect and love," end quote. I end my word by asserting that collective work from all of us is required. It is a duty on us all to form a better future for our kids. The result of our collective actions will determine us, because we are not what we are, and we are what we are not. We are what we are yet to be. I have faith that humanity can do a lot better. This is our collective faith. Thank you for listening.
Sua Eccellenza.
Thank you, Excellency, for what you said and for recalling the value of diversity and of collaboration in diversity. And thanks for recalling that ignorance is enemy of peace. Thanks for providing us with the indications of all the tools you have implemented in the Kingdom of Bahrain and in order to reach this kind of world, this reality, I would like to ask all the speakers to try to not to go beyond 8 or 9 minutes. We live in time, we are affected by time, and we have time limits, okay? So I will now leave the floor to Mohammed Al-Mamari, Undersecretary of the Ministry for Religious Affairs of the Oman.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellencies, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, real pleasure to be in this historic city of Bologna, in this significant gathering that revives and renews hope in our spirits and give us time to heal as we experience the consequences of this pandemic and are facing its serious challenges together. Let me first of all to extend my deepest gratitude on behalf of His Excellency Sheikh Abdullah Al-Salimi, the Minister of Endowments and Religious Affairs of the Sultanate of Oman, for this kind invitation, and to the government of Italy for the hospitable reception and warm welcome, to Professor Alberto Miloni, and to all those who developed their efforts to make this forum come to life in such difficult conditions. Esteemed guests, the world, whether pre-COVID-19 or post-COVID-19, has always imposed into unlike reality, a reality that is unfamiliar to us all. Economical and ideological streams, conflict of beliefs and identities, spread of hate speeches, the changing of social values and ethical standards, refugee movements, climate change, and imbalances in justice, equality, and human freedoms. Those challenges have troubled the world and will continue to do so. Therefore, I call upon all of us to reflect on the fate of the stability for this interconnected, interrelated, and harmonizing global system. Ladies and gentlemen, in this regard, Oman's positive impact and interactions with the peoples around the world have been witnessed over the centuries. Peace and tolerance are Oman's identity, an identity that is passed on generation after generation. Oman has always strived toward pursuing development and prosperity for the world. His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq, as a leader of the renewed renaissance of Oman, affirmed that in the foreign front, the Sultanate shall trace the course of the late Sultan, reaffirming the fundamental of our country's foreign policy based on peaceful coexistence with nations, good neighbors, non-interference in the internal affairs of others, respect for countries' dignity, and international cooperations in various spheres. His Majesty the Sultan has also affirmed that Oman will remain as the world has known us during the reign of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos. We will call and contribute to resolving disputes by peaceful means, sparing no efforts in finding satisfactory solutions in a spirit of harmony and understanding. His Majesty Sultan Haytham also said Oman's message of peace would continue to roam the world, carrying a great heritage and noble goals, building and not demolishing. Oman's 2040 vision thrives to promote tolerance and global peace in aims for Oman to become a globally leading society in the areas of mutual understanding, coexistence, and peace. Distinguished guests, world peace and stability that we all seek demand accepting our differences, accepting human changes and human renewed needs, then returning to the basics and constant values affirmed by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to help us all establish a common ground for dialogue that lead towards rebuilding the present and creating hope for the future. In the Sultanate of Oman, attaining global peace and safety and importing concepts of tolerance, mutual understanding, and coexistence from the depths of intellectual into the surface of reality relays in 3 dimensions: reason, justice, and global ethics. In Arabic, al-aql, wal-adl, wal-akhlaq. Reason, to honor humans for being humans without discrimination. Justice, that shades all humans. Global ethics, the sum of shared human values that protect reason and justice from drifting towards personal whims and negative discrimination. The Sultanate of Oman has been sharing its peaceful philosophy at home and abroad for centuries. Oman's Ministry of Endowments and Religious Affairs has been promoting dialogue among nations for decades to foster mutual understanding and peaceful coexistence on a global scale. Among these initiatives, allow me to highlight on 2 initiatives. The first one is the exhibition Tolerance, Understanding, Coexistence, Oman's Message of Islam, established in 2010 as one part of its comprehensive approach promoting these values. This was not a public relation campaign, nor simply out of the goodness of their heart, but as a continuation of Oman's long-standing tradition of conducting dialogue and commerce with diverse communities and cultures around the world. This exhibition has appeared in more than 130 cities in more than 39 countries since its starting in 2010. During the last 11 years, an international team has built a unique worldwide network reaching almost all levels of society in more than 40 nations. The second one, the initiative towards united human values. This initiative, which carry on the Sultan Qaboos Declaration project on united human values, was launched in 2020, celebrating the International Day of Tolerance to promote human values such as tolerance, understanding, the present turmoil in the world, which came from hatred, terrorism, and misinterpretation of teachings of various religions. In conclusion, gentlemen, in this one world where human beings of different backgrounds, ethnicity, cultures, and religions are living together, the societies have become multicultural and full of diversity. Establishing harmony has become very crucial, and fostering peaceful coexistence has become vital. While security and stability are essential elements for any society, but achieving social cohesion is needed. Without social cohesion and peaceful coexistence as the set of our human values, the lasting peace of nations cannot be preserved, and a common ground between people cannot be established. The lack of coexistence, the lack of social cohesion leads the way to violence, and it destroys the peace and stability of mankind. When people or even nations fail in their dialogue, they become intolerant, and then they use force and aggression to support their opinion. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, without wise leaders who realize the extent of responsibility and the weight of the trust they are entrusted with, we cannot achieve success in all the plans, efforts, and funds we have put in to attain world peace and stability that we all aspire to. May God bless our efforts, and may this forum be fruitful and tangible results and provide effective recommendations. And may God unite us all in brotherhood, peace, and harmony. Thanks for your attention.
Ringrazio il rappresentante del...
Thank you very much to the Undersecretary of Ministry of Oman for having recalled the central role of peace, of building of peace in a multicultural world, and also the role of religions and their capacity to dialogue among them to shape a shared future. Yesterday, I said that religions give hope to the future, and this is precisely the concept at the very heart of your commitments and concerns. Now the floor to Ali Rashid Al-Nuaimi, founder and chairman of the World Muslim Communities Council and chairman of the International Center of Excellence for Countering Violent Extremism.
It's a great honor to be part of this session and to be also in Bologna, a city of enlightenment and academic, where we all have to learn from the history of this city to pass a message to the world that we have to live together. I understand, Your Excellency, the issue of timing. So there is so many things that was mentioned earlier, which I have to address. I wanted to address, but because my colleague, actually His Excellency Sheikh Khalid and His Excellency Mohammed mentioned, so I actually comment what they have said, the key messages, and I want to say that I am really proud to see an examples in Bahrain and Oman, where actually they walk the talk. And what they are saying here, you can go and see it by your eyes. I'm saying that because I work globally in issue related to coexistence and countering hate. And I see many society who are suffering because of the hate that spread in their nation. And here, you know, I believe whenever you talk about coexistence, there is two things that you have to understand and consider. The first one is diversity. Now we are living in the 21st century, and you will not find any country with one religion or one ethnic or one color or one nationality. Diversity is everywhere. And this is why it's very important for religious leaders to promote a narrative that will bring people in every nation together. The religious narrative by itself, approaching their followers only, will not unify the society and the nation. In their narrative, they had to consider the other community within that nation, the other believers, the other religious followers. So it's very important to understand that when it's come to coexistence, religious leaders, they have to understand that diversity is a fact. We have to live with it, you know, and they in their narrative, they shouldn't exclude others. This is the first thing. The second thing is that we have also to acknowledge when we talk about coexistence is globalism. We are living, you know, in an era where, you know, usually when we talk about globalism, we talk about the financial services, about hospitality, about so many things. We don't consider the issue of religion and culture when it comes to globalism. It's very important to understand a word that we will say in this room, it will be not in this room, not on Bologna, on Italy, it will go globally. So we have to consider whatever we say, when it comes to our religious narrative, it will have an impact globally. And in this regard, you know, it's very important and it's crucial to put our political differences aside when it's come to religion. Because if we play politics with religion, we will end up dividing our own community at the end. Coexistence is crucial for our national security. our countries won't enjoy security, stability, and prosperity unless they enjoy a coexistence and promote the coexistence values. And here, it's very important to understand for the decision maker that never to leave religious leaders behind. You know, you have to engage them. If you don't engage them, you will leave a vacuum that will be used by others to promote a religious narrative that will turn religion into an ideology that will serve a political agenda and that will divide us, divide each community. I'm saying this especially when it comes to Islam, because there is those who hijacked our religion, Islam, which we believe is a religion of peace, and used it as an ideology to recruit followers for their terrorist organization. They used it for, you know, promoting their organization and their narrative. They used it for fundraising. And here, especially in our religion, they used verses of Quran, saying of the Prophet, for what? To do all these three things. So we need to engage religious leaders in countering these narratives. Never leave religious leaders behind. Today at the ministerial session in the morning, one of the speakers mentioned that 84% of the world population, they are religious followers. They believe in religion. So we have to utilize religion to promote the values that we share as human beings. All religion, they have great values that we have to build on and to create to create bridges of respect, trust between different religions, different ethnics, different communities. If we don't do so, religion will be used to divide us. And don't forget the history that we have, even the European history, where religion, you know, used to divide people, and millions suffered because of that. So I emphasize this. Always try to engage religious leaders. Don't let them take the lead, because if they take the lead, they will feel that they control everything. But engage them and show them the importance of their role and the added value that they'll bring to the world. And at the same time, you know, keep feeding them with the right messages to protect the national security of each nation. I'm talking about these from these angles because I work globally to counter hate and counter extremism. And I see the threat. It's not in a certain region. It's global threat now. And those who are promoting hate and promoting extremism, they don't believe in borders. You know, they are everywhere. They target all of us. And at the same time, they are actually becoming an expert in using the social media to promote their narrative, to recruit our kids. And they have unfortunately, they have the courage to proceed what they believe in. While many of our religious leaders, they are hesitant to come forward and speak up. They don't have the courage to come and counter the narrative that's created by those who are promoting hate. I know the issue of time, but finally, I want to emphasize this. We have so many meetings that we talk about these things. I think we have to focus on initiatives, programs that will gain the heart and the mind of the new generation. We want the youth to see that there is a real outcome from our meetings, that they have a role in it, that we believe in them, that we are trying and working hard to create a better future for them, that what we are doing now, it's for them, not for us. Thank you very much.
Ringrazio molto Ali Rashid.
Thank you, Rashid Al-Mamari, for all the things you said, and for recalling the value of diversity, the dimensions and the value of globalization in a positive sense, in a positive way. I mean, not only an economic and financial globalization, also a globalization of values and of cultures and of religions, and also the role played by religious leaders when it comes to foster common and shared values. This is much important. This is very much important because it provides us with an indication to limit, it helps us limit this threat, the threat of a different and improper use, a dividing use of faith, and a painful use of faith as well, that creates violence and that is manipulated to perpetrate terror attacks and so on. So thank you very much for offering us your view and offering us your indications. Especially you made reference to tangible programs. All these things can't be just good talks and just words and words and words. Rather, we should put them in practice so that our sons and daughters can experience a better world. Well, this is hopefully what we are going to do very, very soon. Now I'm going to leave the floor to Ramon Blequa, Ambassador at Large for Mediation and Intercultural Dialogue at the Spanish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you very much for your invitation and for this initiative.
Honored to be part of this important panel. And I do believe that many important things have been said concerning the way interreligious dialogue can contribute to conflict resolution, to improve the world situation, the relationship between communities, increase the possibility of preventing conflict and coexistence in our societies. But I think we need to have a reality check on what has happened in the last 20 years. Because if interreligious dialogue was launched in many different ways and through many different initiatives to counter the impact of 9/11 as a embodiment or incarnation of the predictions of Huntington, of the clash of civilizations, we have to say that 20 years later, conflicts have increased, conflicts affect more people, they have an impact on civilians that is much higher than before. Religious, ethnic, and cultural factors are now deeply entrenched into the conflicts of our time. They have replaced the more neat separations of ideological or military confrontations of the past, and now have become elements that have affected whole societies. And the impact of that has been massive population displacement. When we are talking about migration as a problem, a large part of it has to do with conflicts, have to do also with economic inequality, not only armed conflicts, and with environmental degradation. The European Union had in its global strategy as a main objective precisely to address the challenges of crisis management and conflict resolution. And there we are very much aware that the conflicts in our neighborhood become immediately conflicts in our own societies, because these massive population displacements affect also the capacity of many of our societies to absorb this diversity and this multicultural reality. Even if we proclaim, and many of the religious leaders keep sending these messages that we have heard here about existence and about the positive element religion plays, we also can see that most of the armed movements in our neighborhood are also inspired by religious ideas and by religious leaders. If we look just recently in our neighborhood, or the conflicts that are in the forefront of international relations, the Taliban movement very much inspired religious ideas. Not to speak about Daesh. I mean, the Islamic State has proclaimed, of course, they represent and they will make sure that certain ideals, intolerant and extremist that they may be, but inspired by apocalyptic prophecies. And so are many other, movements, the Houthi in Yemen, or Hezbollah in Lebanon, or the Hashd al-Shabi in Iraq. They are also inspired by religious ideals. So religion is very much at the center of conflict. And for example, the UN Department for Peacebuilding and Political Affairs, in the last strategic document, they acknowledge that conflict is becoming more complex, more intractable, and more difficult to address with traditional mechanisms and instruments. So we are having now a situation in which non-state actors are now replacing the traditional parties in conflict, and they have a much more decisive role in decision-making in many countries as state institutions implode or become irrelevant, partly because they are unable to respond to the demands of the population, partly because the new reality in international relations makes these non-state actors, and I'm not talking here about militias only, although they are a very important manifestation, tribal, ideological, or religiously inspired militias. I'm talking about, from transnational corporations, the digital platforms, criminal networks. They are as powerful as many states. They become as influential as many states. And it is important to address also the impact of technology innovation in the new definition of power relations, of what is being called the new digital order, in which access to the new tools of artificial intelligence or data, big data management define the capacity to influence the situation in many different conflicts. The conflict now is not happening necessarily or only on the battlefields. It's happening on the web. There is fake news, there is disinformation, there is armies of bots, there is big data management that actually change the perceptions of conflict, and they change the perceptions of the actors about what is the reality they are facing. So I think there is a very important book that have really impacted me very much, is the Yuval Noah Harari, Homo Deus, in which he addresses how technological innovation and the massive application of artificial intelligence is really not just changing the context and the conditions of human existence, but its very purpose. So we are having here, on one hand, a retrenchment in religious, sometimes extreme religious interpretations in the face of uncertainty and fear. And at the same time, we have a new reality that is being imposed upon us through the power of the algorithms that we don't control, that we have absolutely no say in about, that is not subject of the political debate, that our leadership, our political leadership are accepting as a reality of life without any kind of questioning, or at least a kind of debate. The imposition of all sorts of biometric controls, and the fact that the new 5G or Internet of Things is going basically to control every single aspect of our lives has not been subjected to any consultation. It's just been imposed, and the fact that COVID-19 has made those instruments useful for the control of the pandemic will make them probably permanent features in our reality. How does interfaith dialogue or the role of religion affect these new realities of technology? How is possible that machine learning, or the beginning of what is called now inorganic life, in which machines interact with humans in a way that was never seen before, will define the kind of social interaction that will not only condition conflicts, international conflicts or conflicts in our societies, but also the very purpose of our lives. I mean, how can religion, and here interreligious dialogue is obviously a much more powerful instrument because it brings together different sources of wisdom, different traditions, and they could, I think, take a much more proactive role. If we keep just the old declarations in which we are basically tangent to the self-gratification role of the good intentions of our beliefs, this is not going to change the reality of conflict. But if we can harness the extraordinary, powerful energy of religious experience as an element for transformation, for social transformation, or for the transformation of conflicts, that could become certainly an instrument of change that will also give a certain purpose to the use of the new technologies in a positive way, in a way in which it has a certain let's say, moral compass, in which is not just an absolute technological element of power in which its control gives superiority overall. Harari says that in the future, religions will become irrelevant, and that the only religions that will determine the way humanity thinks, it will be from Silicon Valley. I very much agree with his analysis. I don't necessarily agree with his conclusions, because I think it is in our hands to really change that reality. It's in our hands to address the reasons of conflict, because the unequal access to information technology will become the biggest source of conflict in the future. And we are seeing now that the confrontation between the US and China is all about control of technology. It's all about artificial intelligence. It's all about the digital economy. So we are now being spectators in a drama that basically will determine our lives. And the same way I said that military, very successful military organizations inspired by religious leaders have actually defeated technology. I mean, the way that these different organizations, and the Taliban is the best example, fighting the most powerful army and the most technologically developed military in the world. So there is obviously a source of enormous resilience that lies in the religious experience. It's not necessarily in the religious theory. The religious theory pretty much is an ineffective tool that will make us maybe have nice declarations, but it will not certainly change the way people act. And I will finish here because I think there's very little time and other people must speak. Thank you.
Grazie all'ambasciatore Ramon Blecua per...
Thank you, Ambassador Ramon Blecua, for touching upon many themes, so recalling us that religions can involve elements of contrast and confrontation. We know that, we are aware, we are also here to make sure that the proper use of religion prevails. Then he recalled the role of new technology, of AIs and algorithms. Algorithm dates back to many centuries ago. And so from this perspective, I believe that we should see what it is. Debate is open, and we know that we have on one hand big tech and on the other hand the big states. So the bet here, the challenge here is creating a technological democracy, which is actually the new purpose which has been undertaken by the European Union as well, by promulgating a regulation on the use on AI, as it can have negative consequences. But I believe that the awareness is the most important thing, because tools having negative consequences can be produced, but it is awareness which counts. I mean, rifle and guns do not shoot by themselves, but they need a hand behind them. For this reason, we need to work to change awareness, consciences, and the support of value to in the awareness that we are united in our destiny as human beings. And I believe that despite all difficulties, this can happen. Also, our numbers and figures are Arabic, of course. And I believe that this is something we need, for which we need to thank the Arab world, because it is a shared heritage. And now I give the floor to Afra Al-Sabri, General Director of the Ministry of Tolerance and Coexistence of the United Arab Emirates.
Amen. It's my honor and privilege to convey to you the greetings and the best wishes of His Excellency Sheikh Nahyan bin Mbarak Al Nahyan, Minister of Tolerance and Coexistence in the United Arab Emirates. Unfortunately, because of pressing obligations, he was unable to be here today in person. He asked me to express to you his great appreciation for your strong commitment to searching vigorously for justice, peace, and understanding and tolerance in our world. His Excellency Sheikh Nahyan bin Mbarak sent a special message for this important forum, and it's my honor to read this message to you on his behalf. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, greetings from the United Arab Emirates. We are deeply grateful to the people and city of Bologna for hosting this G20 Interfaith Forum. My country wishes the greatest success for this gathering. We reaffirm our national commitment to exchanging ideas and experiences, to discussing issues of common interest and concern, and strengthening cooperation among us all. The objective of this forum is for us to build a bridge among cultures and religions. We seek ways to bring hope and optimism to relationships we have long been characterized by doubt and lack of trust. This forum makes the statement that common ground is possible if we come to know one another as an equal and as a champion of peace and the human well-being. I address you today, ladies and gentlemen, as the Minister of Tolerance and Coexistence in the United Arab Emirates. We have long recognized in the United Arab Emirates that tolerance and peaceful coexistence need our constant effort to support and make it an integral part of our lives. We must accept others and welcome them an effective participant in society. without discrimination. We must consciously reject negative stereotypes and seek dialogues to resolve misunderstanding and build trust. We must understand that religion's fundamentalism is not unique to any one religion, nor to any single region. We must help societies deal with it in a normal, constructive way, reform and economic prosperity, inspire confidence and realistic hopes for a future characterized by healing, understanding, progress, and stability. These hopes for the future of a human societies were on the mind of His Holiness the Pope and His Eminence the Sheikh of Al-Azhar when they issued the Abu Dhabi Declaration on Human Fraternity in 2019. That historic document asked everyone to commit themselves, and I quote, to work strenuously to separate the culture of tolerance and of living together in a peace. Putting an end towards environmental decay and moral and cultural decline. The declaration emphasizes that peace and understanding promote the qualities of experiences that unite rather and divide and enable a shared state of public well-being and happiness regardless of cultural, ethnic, and religious differences. Our experience in the United Arab Emirates shows that for peace, tolerance, fraternity, and understanding to reach their full potential, they must begin with individuals by educating them and providing accurate information about relationships between religions, cultures, and people. We must also focus our effort on local communities and then on countries and ultimately on the entire world. In all of this, tolerance and understanding must extend to positive and honest dialogue among all of us, regardless of our religion, ethnicity, nationality, culture, economic status, or political belief. We must actively seek that dialogue and become accustomed to exchanging knowledge and opinion, and to listening carefully and respectfully to the voice of others. Such dialogue can enable us to accept differences and recognize shared values. Tolerance and understanding require the courage to confront, announce, and embrace diversity, because tolerance rewards the courageous and peace, harmony, and prosperity. As the world continues to weather the COVID-19 pandemic, the importance of tolerance, peace, fraternity, and understanding looms larger than ever as global principles that are essential to safely and successfully navigating to a global crisis. Years from now, when we reflect on this time, I am hopeful that we will see that it was a peace, cooperation, and adherence to human values that sustained us, to provided us to the dedication and resolve, unite, preserve, and succeed. Friends and colleagues, because of our positive experience with tolerance and understanding, we in the United Arab Emirates are eager to join with other countries and organizations in support of tolerance, human fraternity, peaceful and mutually beneficial coexistence. We are ready to share our experience and to gain from others a wider understanding of the universal power of tolerance. I call you on to join the United Arab Emirates in demonstrating that tolerance and understanding within diverse human societies is a positive and creative force for development and stability everywhere. While I could not be with you in a person, I am with you in a spirit of peace, tolerance, and understanding. You have my most sincere best wishes for a successful forum. Thank you.
Ringrazio la Sheikha, Frau.
I would like to thank Fayal Sabri. She brought us the message of her Minister for Words. The Minister has indicated the words necessary for tolerance, comprehension, understanding at universal level. It has been very important, this reference to loyalty, because loyalty well, actually, fiducia is the word for loyalty, comes from fides, which is faith. So you need to have faith, you need to keep the faith and hope for a common future, for a shared future. So those who are loyal, those who believe, those who have beliefs have hopes in a better future. And I think that this is a way that we need to use. We need to rebuild faith. We need to rebuild faith, and we need to rebuild the capacity of understanding each other and of going on, of going forward. In pandemic times, we can say that faith is a vaccine against diseases, social diseases and difficulties. Thanks for listening. And I would like to leave the floor to Mr. Volker Barreschein. He is the head of the Religion and Foreign Policy Department of the Federal Foreign Office of the Federal Republic of Germany.
Mrs. Chair, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. As a diplomat, the care for peace and peaceful coexistence is certainly one of the most noble duties of my profession. As regards the phenomena which we face nowadays, diplomacy and relations between states are no longer exclusive. Between states, it is, as my colleague Ramon Bleckwer has most ably put it, something that more and more affects our societies. And this makes that the classic instruments of diplomacy nowadays fall short of producing the solutions, because it's no longer the states that can solve these challenges. It is our multicultural, transborder, multi-religious societies that are also the scale where we have to measure our abilities as diplomats. And as regards the relation to religions, I admit that we in Germany, we are in a learning process. We are in a learning process that started around 2015-16, about the same time when this exercise of G20 Interfaith Forum was established. And we were not sure about this new phenomena of religions, and we created a task force to find out more about it. We named it the Task Force on the Responsibility of Religions for Peace. And the idea was to bring religious leaders together and see what happens. I apologize to those around this table. In fact, we were not sure about Islam. We were very much still in the logic of post 9/11, the fight against extremism, and we have, well, 5 million Muslims in Germany, and with connections abroad. And we wanted to find out, is it possible to bring religious leaders from different faiths together? And we learned that it's not only possible, it's even rewarding. We organized a couple of conferences in Berlin and in New York, other places, and decided that religions play a role in this context that I just described. Here, I'm afraid, Ramon, I cannot entirely concur with your thesis to say religion is very often the origin of conflicts. I beg to differ. Most of these conflicts are the usual conflicts for power, for resources, for influence. And sometimes people succeed very ably to label the whole thing religious, which makes it very difficult to find solutions. But religions are not the source. They are very often only the label. But we believe, and this is also part of our learning, that religions can be and need to be part of the solution. And please look around you at this interfaith forum. The religious leaders that we see, that we hear, are they creating conflict? No, the contrary is true. This is the task. So what we have done after this initial learning process, we indeed founded a division on religion and foreign policy. We created an ambassador for religion and foreign policy. I'm afraid, Mr. Moderator, I'm like Ramon, I'm also an ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany on this particular issue. And we were proud to find a very important partner that brought us the know-how that we in the diplomatic service do not have about religion. And that is Religion for Peace. Religions for Peace, with its more than 50-year-old international network of structures in more than 90 countries, and all religions. And those who have heard Asa Karam this afternoon know how she sees it as the Secretary General of Religions for Peace. And we are very proud that Religions for Peace decided to have in 2019 the World Assembly in Lindau. We supported it. Lindau is a nice town in the south of Germany where Austria, Switzerland, and Germany come together at the Lake of Constance. And there we had the World Assembly of Religions for Peace, which was an experiment for us. It was an experiment for us as well, because we wanted to test whether it is possible not only host a conference of an important partner organization, which we support, but to add the element of diplomacy. And so in 2019, firstly, we had formats where religious leaders and diplomats were brought together, not only German diplomats. We succeeded to win over diplomats from a variety of countries, and it was a learning process for the diplomats. It was a learning process for the religious leaders, and it was a learning process for us as supporters of the conference to see that indeed between religion and diplomacy, synergies are possible, in particular when it regards the tackling of conflicts, the search for solutions, and finding of ways that either religion on one hand side, on the other hand, diplomacy on the other side alone would not be able to produce. It was a start, and it worked out. 1 year later, again in Lindau, Religion for Peace decided to have another conference. That was the first assembly on women, faith, and diplomacy, where the idea was to highlight the role of the female element in religions and amongst religious actors, and to show that there's a high potential in this field often overlooked. And we established another round of working tables between diplomats and religious leaders. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we had to do this all virtually with some something members participating. Well, in 3 weeks' time in October, we will have a third Lindau conference. Religions for Peace is doing its World Assembly of Religious Leaders. And this time, the topic is explicitly the World Council of Religious Leaders on Faith and Diplomacy. And again, there will be diplomats from a number of countries, amongst them Ramon Blequa. And now it's not only to get to know each other, it's really with a task of producing solutions or ways to solve concrete issues with the idea to progress in making peace and peaceful coexistence more probable and facilitating this. By the way, we intend to incorporate results of the G20 Interfaith Forum here in Bologna into our deliberations in Lindau. Why not? I mean, and the idea is, if such prominent events as this Interfaith Forum and the World Forum of Religious Leaders of RP voice and come to this denies legitimacy to those who want to use religion for conflict and for violence and for war. And I think it makes a difference. Makes a difference. I said we're in a learning process, but we're progressing. Look around you. What happens here in Bologna? There's a lot of progress in the last 8, 10, 12 years. There's progress in diplomacy. There's progress as regards government policies in cooperation with religions. There's progress in science, by definition. Science is progressing. And there's progress as regards the positioning and the thinking of religious leaders. I conclude. We have heard in the panels, the last this afternoon, our leaders telling us their visions, their dreams, their great goals. I regard it as my task now to get us there. And please, I think all of us, to try to the best of our abilities to make these visions and dreams to become reality. Thank you.
Grazie ancora per...
Thank you very much for this description coming from Germany, of the German experience, and for recalling us the value of learning, because we are undertaking a pathway that we need to conclude and lead to an end. And also thank you for the indication that the fact that diplomacy and religions need to cooperate in order to find shared solution. And from this perspective, G20 Interfaith can represent an important place. Now the floor is to Atefe Saldeki, Community Development Officer, who basically is a researcher of political history.
Yes, I already modified my speech, bearing in mind the shortage of time we have, and I was asked to even make it shorter. So I'll make it straight to the 2 points that I like to make, as we have been speaking a lot on interreligious and interfaith dialogue. What in my many years of interfaith and interreligious dialogue work I have realized is the call we do and the promotion of interreligious dialogue by framing communities and people into this group or into intercultural group, and then inviting them to tolerance without creating an understanding before that. So what we have been doing is inviting to tolerance, and for me, from my understanding, tolerance has a negative connotation to it. It means that we coexist together, we just have to tolerate each other. And that coexistence, that tolerance can actually become very toxic because it lacks the viable and crucial understanding of one another. We have not been providing the tools for understanding. We have been promoting understanding by the label of interreligious, intercultural dialogue without previously providing the tools for understanding among adherents and followers of different religions, and between those adherents of different religions and the non-religious groups of the community. So what I'd like to take into consideration and to invite everyone to take into consideration is that this uninformed coexistence is only tolerance, and tolerance can only cause more conflict in my perspective. I will cut everything out and I just jump into the recent funding that has been released by the European Commission on protection of places of worship and communities. We have developed a SOAR project based on that funding that we have received at the Institute in Enhancing Faith Institutions, where we engaged 7 countries by inviting religious leaders and their community members by providing security training for them to be able to protect themselves on different levels of attacks, be it extremist attacks, hatred attacks, or terrorist attacks, because we deem it necessary and essential that they first know how to protect themselves before they are engaged further into communities. That is, again, lies within the same level of understanding and taking the responsibility that have been neglected on the level of the communities. It relies mostly on the communities first, or at least as much as it relies on the states and religious leaders participating in protection of the societies and creating healthy societies. Thank you very much. I would just cut it here. Thanks.
Questo messaggio che si rivolge appunto non solo.
This message was to local communities and states, and after this message I will give the floor to our Minister of Interiors, Lamorgese, who will share her thoughts and conclusions on such a paramount debate. So first of all, thank you very much for the invitation in taking part in today's session of G20 Interfaith Forum. I've been witness of a very important exchange, such as the value of learning, the need to acknowledge pluralism, and the need to intervene and to act on part of the European Union, who needs to tackle this global challenge, which is the challenge of the religion pluralism. I firmly believe that reference should be made to the role undertaken by religions in the process of shaping of personal individual identities and also collective identities, and also in defining a system of values and in shaping a perspective on the world. And all this is based on the importance of intercultural or interfaith dialogue, which is a tool through which to favor the meeting of different cultures by exploiting our shared ethic ground. I firmly believe in these principles, and for this reason, within the Minister of Interiors, I have established a Council for Islam, and in a short time, we will also refound and re-establish a group of work, a round table, made up by the main, most important representatives of religions. I'm making reference, of course, to the Islamic world, because we have already drafted an agenda that should be addressed. Because I believe that hatred, hostility, fanaticism, all these extremisms are the result of manipulation of religions when they are manipulated for economic or political purposes. So for this reason, an action is required on our part with concrete solutions. And while you were speaking, I've been taking notes, and someone said the role of imam. So the imam need to lay the basis to tackle violent actions, and diversity should be understood. This is a fundamental point. This is a crucial point because religious teachings in general, religions in general invite to abide to the peace principle, to the principle of brotherhood, coexistence, civil coexistence. And for this reason, the freedom of belief should be acknowledged as an individual right, and within an acknowledgement of equal rights as an antidote against any form of discrimination. So I believe that institutions should meet and discuss these topics, these themes, to translate these debates into concrete actions, as we need to translate them into actions creating a more inclusive and peaceful society. And I stress the concept of inclusivity, an inclusivity which respects human diversity and dignity, because each and every citizen needs to feel part of a society which is a fulfilled society, a society where everyone has his or her own duty and rights. And this is crucial because everyone can contribute to the society to which he or she belongs. And this despite diversities, because diversity should be considered an added value contributing to the development of the community and society itself. And in this framework, institutions should play a neutral role, which doesn't mean to neglect or to ignore religions, but instead it means that the state takes an active role in ensuring the freedom of belief, which is something which is enshrined also by our constitution. So together with the dialogue, together with the interfaith dialogue, what is needed is a constant relationship and exchange between political institutions and religious communities with the perspective to shape a multicultural, multi-religious society. And there is a lot going on. There is a lot of debate about IT, technological innovations, and so on and so forth. And so we speak a lot about this, and because of this, we need to be and to adopt a far-sighted approach. And this is up to us because we firmly believe in these principles. Therefore, tolerance is one of those principles, understanding is one of those principles, as against intolerance and violence. So the roundtable that we have established at the Ministry of Italian Ministry of Interior has specifically the objective to disseminate such principles in order to create and to establish pillars which can be taken as a reference. And this has been done also meeting second generation, young generation of the second generations of migrants, discussing with them public education, training, the use of Italian language in education in order to foster inclusion within our country, but also within the religious communities within our country. And another topic is youth activism. So the action of the young generation, this is another topic we have been focusing on. And then confronting discrimination is another theme we have been tackling within the ministry, because too many students feel discriminated at school, and when they feel discriminated, they feel as outcast. And this is precisely when radicalism takes place, because when they don't feel accepted, when they don't feel integrated, when they feel instead outcast, when they feel excluded from the society to which they belong, well, this is a mistake that any government and state should be avoided. If the state and the country is far-sighted, and I believe that the far-sightedness is necessary. I believe that wise leaders are much needed for them to disseminate such principles. So this is the approach I've been adopting for the Italian Ministry of Interiors, of course, working with Islamic communities and religious communities, with a firm belief that respect is always possible, and that the culture of dialogue and understanding is not an utopia, it's not a dream. Instead, it is a prerequisite in order to live in peace, respecting the legal framework, in order to leave to future generations a better world. And I believe that we are equipped of all the tools to succeed. Thank you very much for your attention, and especially for your contribution, very enriching contributions that have opened our eyes on a different perspective on the world. And I believe that the values, the principles that you have proposed can be shared and advocated by all of us. So I'm really happy, and I positively welcome this forum. Thank you very much.